is Ukulele Saz, founder of the Scotland Ukulele Project, flight ukulele artist and full-time ukulele teacher based in Glasgow, Scotland. This is part of our practice series, and this is a video on how to practice and different methods that you can apply to your practicing. I'm going to give you a few different examples of what types of things you can practice and a couple of different practice methods that you can try out for yourself and see if it's something that you would like to implement into your own practicing schedule. As always, leave me some comments below on which things you do already, what your practice techniques and methods are that you would like to share with others, and which ones you maybe don't do as much that you would maybe like to do in the future. The first one is the Jam Sesh. The most fun practicing of all. It's something that we should all do regularly, because at the end of the day, why do we love music? Because we love playing it, we love sharing it with others. The Jam Sesh can be done by yourself, playing with friends. You might just pick a few songs that you just want to play and practice and play again and again. It's good for the heart, it's good for the soul, it's good for everything. Because after all, we just love that feeling we get when we play music, so why don't we do that as part of our practicing? This practicing maybe isn't as focused as some other types of practicing, but it's definitely just as important. The next one is the quick practice. The quick practice is something that I always recommend to my students, but the idea of the quick practice is that you leave your ukulele somewhere that it's visible, somewhere you can see it in the house. It might be sitting on your couch, it might be in the kitchen if you spend a lot of time cooking. And the whole reason behind this is to pick it up and practice in little bouts whenever you can. It could be something as simple as getting a little technique. And you might have it for 30 seconds. But those 30 seconds will make a difference, especially if you do that 3-4 times a day, maybe 5 times, every single day of the week. Before you know it, that time will add up and you'll have spent loads of time on this technique, and it'll become better than ever before. Your quick practices can be doing things like strumming patterns, techniques. They can be 20 seconds, they can be 2 minutes, they can be 5 minutes. But this is a really effective way of breaking up your day and really getting some quality time in to work on those techniques. The most fun part of this part is you don't even notice that you're practicing. It feels like you're barely doing anything. But again, building some good habits over time, this will be really useful. The next one is the long practice. The long practice is one that we might not always have time for. Sometimes we might not fit in a long practice if we have very busy lives and schedules, and that is absolutely fine, because we've had all these quick practices where we've maybe not had a lot of time to fill in the gaps along the way. However, what I do recommend is one time per week at least, especially if you're really serious about making moves and really making progress. The long practice is something that you should be maybe spending a little bit more time planning and having a little bit more structure of as well. Now, a long practice could be half an hour, it could be 1 hour, hey, it could be even more than that. You might have a whole evening of practicing ahead depending on how much time you have on your hands and how long you want to play for. But in general, the long practice should be a little bit more structured. Always start and end playing something that you enjoy, start and end on a high, and don't forget those tricky bits. If you have an hour's worth of practice, you might spend 10 minutes warming up, you might spend a bit of time playing through the song at the beginning, identifying the tricky bits, spending a bit of time working on them, isolating different parts. Once you spent a little bit of time on that, putting it all together and playing the song through again. I do have a ukulele method called the Ukulele Practice Sandwich, which gives you a lot more of a thorough explanation on how to break down this long practice, so you can check it out on my social media, drop me a wee message and I can share the Ukulele Practice Sandwich with you as well. The long practice is where you'll really start to make a big overall difference to your playing. The quick practices are great, the jam sessions are great, but by dedicating that committed, focused time to your ukulele, your playing, your knowledge, your skills, your techniques, these are where you're going to really start to notice the biggest changes over time. What I'm going to share with you now are 3 different practice methods in which you can use, try out for yourself and see if they work for you. Remember, everybody learns things differently and everyone responds to learning in different ways. Some people might be more visual, some people might be more focused when they're by themselves, they might be more focused when they just start something in the beginning and work their way through chronologically. Everyone is wired differently, which is why these are just suggestions, but I would love to know how you go on with these as well and which ones work for you. Remember, sharing best practice always helps, and it could really encourage and inspire others and give people new, fresh ideas that they can then use in their own practice, and you never know how it can help. Blocked practice is when we take something and we repeat that action over and over and over again. We might be practicing the intro for the song My Girl. And again, if we just do that again and again, repeat, 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 practice, 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 building the myelin, creating those layers, we will play very, very well. Later, you could do this with strumming patterns. It might be a little riff that you're trying to play, it might be a chord change that you're trying to play, and a lot of this you can do as one of your quick practices. So blocked practice would be very, very common and popular when you do one of those quick practices. The next one is random practice. The random practice is when you might not play it all in order. You might not play just the same part again and again. You might be playing Happy Birthday. You might have broken that song into 4 different sections. Section 2. Section 3. And then section 4. And what you'll maybe do is practice one of them, practice that a few times, and then you might practice another part, and then you might go back to the first part again, and it's randomly practicing each bit again and again. This way it's keeping your brain stimulated, you're practicing each section separately so that when you then put that all together, it makes it much better. There's so many things that we can do that with. We might be playing a song, and there might be 3 elements to the song where we've maybe got the chords. We might have the strumming. So we might practice the chords sometimes, get the chord changes. Then we might do the strumming. And then we might put that all together. And it's not a specific order, we're not doing it in chronological order, we're not trying to play it all at once. We're doing it randomly, working on each thing, and then putting it all together. I think this happens to me quite a lot when I practice, because I like to practice this, and then I'll practice this, and then I'll practice this, and then eventually we'll put it all together. The next method of practicing is the win, shift, move, stay. Especially for chord melodies, this is a really, really good one to think about in practice as well. However, random also works, especially if you focus on the tricky bits. When you're practicing a chord melody, for example, you would start with the first bar. So we'll just take Happy Birthday again. And I've got that first section right. So because I've won that part because I got it right with no mistakes. Let me just play it again to ensure that. I'll then move on to the next part. Oh, I got a note wrong. I'll do it again. Oh, done it again. Let me try it again. Got it right. Let me try that one more time just to ingrain it. Okay, I've got both of those parts now. Now I'll move on to the next part. So what this method is when you've got one part and you've played it a couple of times, you move on to the next bit. But you don't move on to the next bit until you've got the first bit done right. After every so often, after every couple of bars, you go back and you play the whole thing. The whole thing, what you've done so far anyway. And then you move on to the next part. So that's win, shift, move, stay. The last one, this one sounds a little bit odd, and people have definitely questioned me on this before as well. The next one is visualising. Believe it or not, if you physically visualise in your head what you're trying to play, this can actually help you when it comes to physically playing. You might want to play, let's take the Sunshine of Your Love riff. In my head, I might be going to sleep at night and I might be thinking about that riff. It's maybe stuck in my head, as songs generally do a lot of the time. And you might be thinking, da 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 da. You might be visualising exactly where those fingers are supposed to be and on what fret. By doing that and physically visualising and pretending you're doing it in your head, believe it or not, can actually help you to remember things, to memorise things and to improve. I definitely wouldn't recommend that method as your top method of practising, but it was just to let you know that even things like that work. So if maybe you do have a really busy week, you're maybe on a long train journey, getting to somewhere for work, you've not got your ukulele with you, you really want to practice, you might be humming away in your head and physically visualising exactly what you're doing, and that might help. So these are some different types of practicing that you can do, and these are also some different types of practice methods. Please let me know if you've tried any of these, which ones you enjoy, in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And also don't forget to check out the Ukulele Practice Sandwich, which will be available on lots of different social media platforms, and you can also contact me directly to send you that as well. Thank you so much. Join me for the next video, which is going to be my top practice tips to finish us off after our little adventure on practicing. Now we should have a little bit more of an understanding on how to practice, on why we practice, what we can practice, what qualities we should possess. So to summarise, I'm going to show you some of my top tips in general on how to practice.